Hello everyone, it's me, Sisyphean Works, and I got a package today. See? And it's from Mad Studios. So yeah, I finally got my rewards for supporting the game. Not all of them. For one thing, this package is very clearly lacking a physical PS4 copy. So that's disappointing, but it's been like that for a year now, hasn't it? Madmine disappointed me, disappointed you, and infuriated the whole web for about 1 week, 1 month ago before fading from the minds of everyone, but the backers. Now backers are shouting about the rewards and bugs and how crap the game is and how worthless the people of Madmine Studios are on their Facebook page. It's like a toxic fandom, except Madmine Studios did everything to deserve it. They sold us an idea they couldn't deliver with twice the time they asked for, and they are reaping what they sowed. Madmine Studios is failing, Agony is up the river, and we all learned an important lesson about spending actual money on things too good to be true. All of that said, I still can't bring myself to get angry about it. Even if Madmine Studios failed me when I put so much faith in them, I can't summon the same mindset as the rest of the backers. Instead, I choose to appreciate what they did get right, learn from it, and perhaps even make something off of it. We'll see some weeks from now when I'm finally done with these editorials. In the labyrinth, we make our way up an anti-gravity bridge the Onoskeles can't climb. While it looks like a fleshy web, just the fact that there is an anti-gravity bridge here jars me back into disbelief. I mean, I have nothing against the idea of hell disobeying the laws of physics, but this is a perfectly squared off area with a very specific capability running up the wall like a pavement. It's far too organized, civilized, and sensical. And let's not forget, it glows in a pretty purple. It belongs in a sci-fi game, not in hell. Moving upwards, we're greeted by an illusionary new area. See, at first I thought it was a ruin where the architecture subtly reminded of an esophagus, and I was really impressed. It was only a trick of the light, however, as when we move closer, it turns out the walls are all still organic. Beyond that, this is not scary. In fact, it looks pretty. The overall impression makes me feel like I'm in a cave looking out into a warm summer sunset, and even going closer to look at the organs and bones, I don't feel any terror. Maybe that's because I'm jaded, but if you need to be new to horror games to find something unsettling, I don't think it counts as scary. The level design of this game is quite random overall. Like I said earlier, variety in a game world is fine, but it needs to be justified. You can do that by making the change gradual, so the world is subtly changing all around you, or frame it in a way that makes sense, like a cinematic explaining the transition from one way to another. One level should have one design type, or at least a common theme throughout, but so far, Agony feels like I've entered a funhouse where every room is different. While the bone and organ decoration from the labyrinth continues here, the way this area is separate from the labyrinth, and the way the lightning completely changes the atmosphere makes it feel like a whole new area. It's too sudden and uncalled for, there's no drama to it, it's just random. And because it feels like stepping from one room to another, it's still too structured to be called a hellish chaos. We move towards the demo area, and with it the design markedly changes. It's subtle, but it's there, the way this balances structure with organic forms in a way when neither side appears to outweigh the other. The light grows more dim, and suddenly the walls and pillars are more suggestive, and it's only when we approach that we see what they are. Never mind the fact that we already know this is a scarier presentation. We reach the Colosseum and stare in wonder at the hellish spectacle unfolding before us. The hard palette marbling covers everything, and from it grows horns, mouths, and sinew, like spiders' webs spun over the suggestions of a Roman tower building. Rooms open into intestine corridors, sepulchres, and scattered halls. Nowhere is safe. Everything is alive and intent to kill you, and it is glorious. This is the area which sold the entire concept to us from the start. This and the trailer, this is what we expected the whole game to be like. It's scary, disturbing, and despite the clear similarities with older games, it actually feels original. I hope someone with deep pockets buys Madmine Studios out of their hole, get control of Agony, and remake it so it can look like this and give us the gaming experience we were all originally promised. Having moved down to the bottom of the pit, we're greeted to a cinematic where we possess the demon to transcend to a new area. The cinematic may be odd, but this is what I'm talking about when I say you need to justify moving from one area with one design to another with a different design. It was a sudden transition, but it was justified by the cinematic clearly transporting us from one area to the other. It's not perfect, but it works, and it doesn't feel odd to suddenly be outside. It's refreshing in a way. I feel like I can breathe again after leaving the funhouse behind us. The area itself looks good enough. It's a clear-cut ravine called the Walls of Seduction, where giant faces make out with tongues like tendrils. It's simple, it's to the point, and there is an underlying symbolism to it. There is something to it. But overall, I don't find it disturbing. It could have been if, for example, the faces were moving, like a sexual extravag animation. Now, remember what I said earlier about the environment gradually shifting from one design to a new one, because we are in for a treat as we head deeper. All in all, I like it. I like the large simple surfaces, cracked walls and dramatic lighting. I like it, but it could have been worse in a good way. It also introduces us to the underwhelming succubi. Seriously, who thought it was a good idea to give them hooves? Going from where we start to a cave, we don't break the overall atmosphere, but gradually move from one atmosphere to another. The colors are roughly the same, the light is dimmer as expected in a cave, and we're greeted to chort babies hung from the roof, and succubi are stalking you through the caverns. It's a gradual shift from disturbing to threatening, and it works right on through.
Even the bones are not that hard. So fragile. Come with me, let's find our queen.
It does become a bit more like the dungeon we visited earlier in the game the further you go, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. It only has me questioning why they decided to have the dungeon bit in the beginning. I'm sure it solved the gameplay issue not making the first bit too short or something like that, but this place would have had a much stronger impact if this had been the first we'd seen of it. The deeper we go, the more we see of the carnal depravity this game built its reputation on. It starts with small details like the hung babies, and the details gradually grow larger, past a hellish orgy to gigantic fingers growing from the walls like a sickly coral reef. And this gradual change ties it all together as the more basic environment changes all around us. We go from a confined tunnel to a massive crumbling ruin, and then great big halls of stone and bone decorations. But at no point does this feel jarring, because like I said, it's all tied together so well. This is definitely one of the areas the creators spent extra time on, and it is done brilliantly. I'm not even mad about the anti-gravity bridges here. I'm annoyed I can barely freaking move on them, but they feel okay in this environment. It's ruins, it's based on geometry and organized architecture. They don't stick out like sore thumbs. And the fact that the makers had the presence of mind to not turn them into glowing catwalks is a big plus. Is it scary? No. Fright takes so much more than just a clever background, but with this background it has the potential to be scary. Fighting the Baphomet was neither scary nor hard, but unexpectedly coming face to face with the Nonoskelis charging at me through fiery bushes was a bit of a shock. This all leads to the cinematic at the end of the first level, and it captures what I mean when I say that this game had potential, and why I won't let it fall into obscurity just because it's bad. Falling into the orgy we passed earlier, we are found out and dragged before the Red Goddess, only to be executed like a scene from Apocalypto. I wouldn't call it scary or disturbing, but the makers did show us gore and kink at the same time, and if only they had gone further with it, this game could have been a truly, pleasantly memorable experience. And that was the first level of Agony. And my personal opinion is the second half is better than the first. It's a slow burn that gradually grows more and more twisted, but towards the end doesn't really seem to know what to do with itself. It's as if it's asking, I showed you porn and gore, what more do you want? My answer to that is nothing. I think that's enough. But it wasn't utilized to its full potential. I wish it was. It's been too long since a game, or a movie for that matter, was so vile and was actually prohibited in the West. But I understand why they couldn't. They already had to cut stuff away from the endings just to be allowed to sell it. And it did have the sex and gore Mad Mind promised, so in that I'm pleased. I'm just not blown away. I'm left feeling like it could have been more, and seeing where Mad Mind was going with it, that's a really sad feeling. I want to see more. I want to know where it could have gone. And in essence, I guess that's why I can't just let this game go. It's still a bad game. I'm only talking about the design. Hope you see me again next week when we continue this descent into madness through the bowels of agony. Thank you all for watching. I've been Sisyphean Works, and remember, if you're going to post editorials on YouTube, make sure you figure out the catchphrase before you do it. That way you don't have to ironically steal from Deck of Shadow like a twig.